I would like to tell you guys a personal story in order for the whole topic of this video to come together. Now, for the sake of the person, I'm not gonna say their name or age, gender, whatever. I'm gonna just create them as a fake character, right? But today, well, this year I was in my first year, in university, and I really wanted to make friends. I really wanted to make quality friends. So I met this one person. We'll call them Brian. And now Brian, from a distance, I was like, that looks like a pretty cool person. Let me go and let me go talk to this person and see what they're about. You know. Now I'm chatting it up with him, and I'm seeing, okay, yeah, the vibes are nice. Like me and this person actually get along, pretty well. I think for a fact we would actually be great as friends. Our conversations never had a dull moment. So from that point on, I got connected to Brian, and I was looking to build a friendship with Brian, and Brian understood that. And so every single time me and Brian would, sit down and chat it up and catch up, it was always like a free flowing conversations. It was always easy to open up to this person. I found that they were also opening up to me. And so it felt like a very, it felt like there was equal reciprocity in the relationship. Every time I gave energy, it seemed like I received energy back, And I felt like it was a pretty, we ended up growing to become friends. At least that's what I thought. That brings me to today's video. But let me finish off the story. All right, me and Brian, we grew to become friends, and the vibes were great, man. I was there for him when he needed me. But the thing is, Brian was never there for me when I needed him. And that made me realize that Brian wasn't actually my friend. Brian was just a spectator. Now, today's video is about friends versus spectators. Because me coming to that realization that Brian was a spectator, it led me to judge Brian less, because I thought, you know what, friends are supposed to be like this, like this, like this, like this, and friends are supposed to be, friends are supposed to have certain qualities, and I saw Brian didn't have them. Now, when I started to see Brian as a spectator, I was like, okay, I can't really judge Brian for being a spectator, for treating me the way he treated me, because he was never my friend to begin with, right? And the reason why I stayed in this relationship with Brian for some time is because I always wanted friends. I always wanted to be somebody who had friends. Because of that, I care deeply about my friends. And so I care deeply about Brian. I care so much that I didn't see that Brian didn't care about me. So I used to make excuses for every time I thought that Brian was being a bad friend. I just thought, nah, he was just going through something. He was just, like just kind of busy right now. So obviously, you know what I mean? I realized Brian was not my friend. Now, what the hell is a friend, right? What is a friendship? A friendship is a mutual agreement. You and this person both agree to commit to loving each other. Now, love isn't this fancy word that I'm trying to use for like feelings and like lovey dovey, touchy feely. Love is a decision to give your time, your resources, your energy. Love is literally giving. That's what love is. And so, friendships is like a mutual agreement to give, to be there for each other, to sometimes be a little bit, sacrificial. Sometimes I'm gonna put you before myself, because you're my friend, and that's what love is. Sometimes I give, you know, instead of me taking the whole time. I thought Brian was my friend. I really did. Until one day I realized that when I look back, I was always the one calling Brian. I was always the one checking up on Brian. I was always the one trying to make plans to hang out with Brian. But Brian never called me. Brian never checked up on me. Brian never wanted to know how I was doing, where I was at in my life, what my goals were. It's like I was the only one giving, and Brian was the only one was just receiving and receiving and receiving. So there was love from my side, but there wasn't love from Brian's side. And that's what made Brian a spectator. A spectator, literally, in this case, is somebody who may look like a friend, but matter of fact, they're just there to watch. They're just there to watch, literally. They're just there to watch and not participate in the actual friendship. I don't know why they may watch. Maybe you're an entertaining person. Maybe you have a lot of money. Maybe you have status, or like maybe you have popularity, and they, or maybe you know somebody that person wants to get close to, right? There's many reasons why somebody would spectate, but it sucks when you don't really know who the spectators are in your life. And I want to help you today. I want to help you kind of like open your eyes and be aware that, okay, wait, spectators are real, and beware of spectators. I just told one story of Brian today, but I experienced that I have a lot of spectators throughout this year, because throughout this year I was very social. I gained a lot of social skills, so I exercised them this year in university, and I was socializing, being social, always talking to people and trying to make friends. And so I realized in that time that you can make friends, but you can also make spectators. Now I've made friends, people who actually call me, people who actually love, people actually love me, bro. Like, so how do you spot a spectator, man? You can spot a spectator very, very easily. There's this thing called reciprocity, which basically means, are they gonna give you the same energy back that you give? Now, not everybody is always going to reciprocate. There are moments where maybe they give to you more than you give to them, or you give to them more than they give to you, which is okay. But then, predominantly, are you guys reciprocating energy? Does the one person do more in this relationship than the other person? And it doesn't mean, I'm not talking about gifts. I'm not talking about, those things are very like small and minor. I'm talking about things like when it comes to friendships. I'm talking about, do they listen to you? Do they make time for you? Do they actually put in effort to come and holler at you, check up on you? Or is it just you, the one-sided person, doing everything to make sure that the friendship survives? And so that's how you spot a spectator. Spectators don't do anything. They just sit and watch, right? They don't really participate in games, in sports. And then how do you really know if somebody's really your friend? Well, people's true colors are exposed through time. Time exposes people's true colors. But as you're letting that time pass, pay attention to how these people treat you. Pay attention to what these people say to you. Friends are not going to speak death upon you. They're not gonna look, they're not gonna speak words that put you down. Friends are gonna, even though you might be in a bad place and they might see that and they might help you acknowledge that, they'll always see that you have potential to grow and potential to be better. That's how you know someone is a quality friend. And it breaks my heart, honestly, because I put so much effort in this friendship with Brian, thinking that, we were friends. But it just seemed like Brian was just taking from me the whole time. And it breaks my heart because as a person, I care a lot about friends. Like, I love my friends. Everybody that I call my friend, I love that person, and I would give damn near almost anything, for that person. So making this video is just me encouraging you to be careful who you call your friend, because you might be like me. Be careful who you call your friend, because not everybody who thinks you're cool, who likes to hang around you, is your friend. I had to learn that the hard way. Now, luckily, I didn't have to lose an arm or a leg, but a little bit of trust is broken for people. But it's also like, pay attention to these people. Watch these people. Watch how they behave. Watch how they treat you. Watch how they give. Do they give to you? Do you give to them? And not gifts, but time, energy. You know what I mean? Watch that. Like, pay attention to that energy that they give off, because when you guys come together and you're interacting and the conversations are flowing, like me and Brian, you don't really see, does this person actually care about me? You actually start to see that after the conversations, after the nice times with the person, you guys have food together, whatever. That's when you start to see, okay, wait, is this person for me? A bit later on, the more comfortable you guys get together, do they say things that destroy your self-image, or do they say things that uplift your self-image? Do they call you? Do they check up on you? Do they make sure you're doing good? Or are you the only one who's doing that? And if you don't, and if you wanna be a simpy ass dude, simply ass lady with weird ass friends who don't call you but you call them. Sure, go ahead, go enjoy those friendships. But I'm telling you, those friendships are not. They're not worth it. They're not worth your energy. They're not worth your love. Those people are gonna take, 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 and they never give. And guess what? It's gonna ruin how you feel about people in general. It's gonna create these stereotypes, these prejudices against other people because of that one person, that one wrong person that you decided to love. So choose wisely, but also, where in your own life are you a spectator, right? Because just like Brian, you might be the Brian. And in some cases in my own life, I've also been the Brian. And before I made this video, actually, I started to actually assess and think, who are the people that actually want to be my friend? They call me, they give to me, they give me their time. They're showing love. And I'm not showing that love back. And I'm just taking and I'm just taking. Who are these people in my life that I'm just taking from? And I had to think about it and sit and I looked at it and I was like, damn, there's this one guy, let's call him Brad. Brad, man, Brad really, he calls me all the time. Brad be hitting me up and sometimes I don't even answer the call, but I call him later. But then, then he'll just tell me like, nah, bro, I was just checking up on you and seeing how you were doing and stuff. And I really appreciate Brad for that. And I was blind to see that Brad was actually trying to be my friend. Now, Brad's still in my life, thank God. Now, I take a little bit of an effort also now to call Brad. And I'm like, Brad, how are you doing? Tell me how are you doing? Because I want to reciprocate the energy. Quality friendships are quality when energy is reciprocated. Now, I mentioned talking bad, talking down. Now, if that's how you guys treat each other in your friendships, it makes sense because now I talk nonsense to you and you talk nonsense back to me. We just reciprocating that energy, but that's not very healthy. Words have power, more power than you think, maybe. So even those friendships where you guys talk nonsense and you guys roast each other the whole time aren't really the best of friendships because it can kind of kill your confidence a little bit. Self-esteem can go down just a little bit. So you have spectators. Are you a spectator? And examine yourself. Examine your friendships. Take this time in December festive season when everybody's having fun to think to yourself, what would happen if you suspect someone to be a spectator in your life? What would happen if you stopped giving? Because if you're thinking that they're a spectator, that means you're seeing a lack of reciprocity, right? So what happens if you stop giving? Right? Are they gonna start to reciprocate? Are they gonna start to give back? Or are they just gonna think to themselves, show's over, time to go spectate another game, time to go be a spectator in somebody else's life? And yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It really does, because especially if you love the person. But not everybody that's in your life is meant to be your friend, and not everybody that acts like a friend is a friend. So yeah, it takes a little bit of guts, takes a little bit of balls to do this, to kind of like decide to switch up a little bit. It does. But I want you to remember something, that I believe in you.